To explain what Sylo is, Sylo. They offer a decentralized messaging app prevailing over privacy, and they also offer a lot of cool features with itself, which are going to get into at a later stage, where they offer a wallet, and you can discover certain areas. You can head over to Uniswap, DuckDuckGo. There's a lot going on. They've been around in the space for a very long time, and that's a really cool thing by itself, because it means they've been building, and they are here to stay, obviously. So let's see, I'm going to invite Dorian as we speak, and he should be joining, because I basically just want to get started.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you doing, mate?
Very well, very well.
Good. I was just, before you entered, I was explaining a little bit to our users what we're going to do and what Sylo is, but who better to do that than the man Dorian Johannek himself of Sylo. So, because we got a lot to discuss, I would say take it away. If you could explain who you are and what Sylo is all about.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it probably makes sense for me to jump back to the origin a little bit. So we've been building technology in the decentralized realm for a good half a decade now. I personally came from the consulting space, where I was helping companies market through the Facebooks of the world. So through that process, I got a really good insight into, I guess, just how much data was being captured and how it was being used in that realm, and realized that there was a pretty big opportunity to provide a service that gave those same features and functionalities, but realigning it a bit better, where it wasn't this concept of giving everything away by sheer fact of having the functionality. So, brought a couple of guys together and embarked on a bit of a mission to build out a communications platform that let you do all the things you want to do every day without giving everything away from a privacy standpoint. So we built that, launched our first version in early 2017, actually. That was a messenger positioned at the professional landscape. So mental health professionals, lawyers, financial advisors, people that needed strict confidentiality and didn't want their communications stored in the cloud. So, moving through that process, we got a bit of adoption towards the end of 2017. Blockchain was really becoming prevalent in everyone's mind, and we saw the opportunity to combine this secure messenger with digital asset and value exchange, which really made that move for us. And we spent the last couple of years focusing on that, which we launched as the Sylo Smart Wallet in September last year. And over the last 12 months, we've been pushing that out. We've seen quite a good adoption around the world, and it's been a pretty cool journey on that. But I mean, in a nutshell, for those that aren't familiar, Sylo is essentially a private messenger combined with a digital asset wallet, and with a few other bits and pieces. Think of it like a decentralized WeChat of sorts.
Nice. You've answered so many of my questions already, which is awesome. So that's what I found, that's something which stood out to me the most. I've downloaded the app, I had a look around, and those are the two things which you mentioned, like the privacy and the decentralized wallet, which really stood out. So you were building this in 2017, and that's also what is very interesting. Like, you guys have been around for a while. So from then until now 2020, where we are today, when finally we're catching on to this bull trend, was it hard to stick around, because you guys have been building for ages, right?
Oh, big time. I mean, back then it wasn't. I mean, now we're seeing almost, once a year there's another social dilemma style documentary coming out, which is slowly kind of getting the mainstream mentality, realizing what's going on in the background. But, in the early days, it was very niche in terms of the understanding of these concepts and this technology. It was also very, very complicated, diving into peer-to-peer technologies, which were very rudimental, which have progressed a lot over the last few years, which has been awesome to see. But it was very, we were embarking on a mission to, spend 10 times the effort to build the same functionality, because when you're dealing decentralized, it was so much more immature from a tech standpoint to your centralized platforms from that point of view. But it's been great, because as we've been evolving this, this whole decentralized movement's been coming through, people really focusing on Web3. Now, Web 1, Web 2 was, hey, we want features, we want functionality, we want to be able to chat with someone on the other side of the world. Now it's about, okay, what technologies are we using, and how do we line these up so that it's a tech that we're happy rolling with for the next decade, 2 decades, that we're happy with our kids getting onto, not freaking out about what they're saying, and it's going to persistently be stored, and who's going to use that information.
Yeah, exactly.
So there's a really good movement, and that's all sort of progressed, and it keeps moving ahead over the number of years that we've been developing this, which has been awesome.
Awesome. Because you mentioned like you initially built it for like a little bit of a niche group for doctors and lawyers. Is it for people who are just joining in, because gradually more people will join into the AMA, and for people who don't know, is it for average users as well, everyday users now?
Yeah, so our positioning is very much looking to be that bridge. Obviously we've got a digital asset wallet there, which focuses on people that have adopted currencies, but digital currencies. But what we saw is an opportunity to kind of connect the dots between mainstream messenger users and kind of crypto enthusiasts, because a lot of feedback we were also getting was that you've got enthusiasts sitting there, and they're like, I want to get my friends, I want to get my family, I want to get my colleagues onto this stuff, but there's no usable applications or platforms I can direct them to that's not going to freak them out. So we really focus on providing a user experience that you can sit beside your Facebook Messenger, your WhatsApp, and expect a mainstream audience to adopt it, which then let the savvy user invite in their less savvy mainstream friends by simply sending them a message or sending them an asset in a messenger to bring them on board. So we're very much seeing ourselves as an experience comparable to a mainstream messenger, just with those extra bits and pieces to really bring the benefits of digital assets to those user base. And we've also put a lot of focus on connecting the dots to mainstream businesses. So like we launched a campaign with Coke earlier on this year, which let you actually spend BTC at smart vending machines in Australia and New Zealand initially, which was really cool. But it's sort of trying to connect that. Yeah. So on the phone, so you could just spend it straight out of your Sylo wallet and purchase products from their vending machines, which actually was really cool to see. We've got a lot of interest out of that. So we're really trying to bridge the two worlds, because that's where we see the big opportunity and the benefits.
So it's basically, this is a very, very much a simplification, and it's definitely not that, because you guys have been building for 5 years. But it's like a Telegram or a Signal or a Wicker with a wallet cryptocurrency application into it, right? Without KYC, from what I understand, without any AML for now. Is that? Do I understand that correctly?
Yeah. In a nutshell, so it's the wallet and the messenger is non-custodial. So your keys, your keys, your responsibility. But because of that, we're not holding custody of the assets from that KYC standpoint. We are looking to introduce additional features down the line to let you on board in partnership with some exchanges that we're working with at the moment, which may involve selected KYC components. But I mean, like you mentioned Signal there. Signal, amazing product, but it's very hardcore privacy focused. What we're focused on is using decentralized technologies to provide that privacy component, but not having to sort of know it's a privacy focused application. You sort of get that by default, catering to that audience that's a little less savvy. It's focused more on the general user experience around it.
All right, fair enough. Yeah, and also it's what I find an interesting question in this space in general, because you see in some foreign governments they're able to hack WhatsApp, and I don't know if you've heard of something called Anchor Chat or PGP. It's used by sorry, I just have to disable a notification. It's used a lot by entities who don't want to be recognized, but even Anchor Chat and PGP, they could be hacked. Servers could be discovered by governments and agents and whatnot. So yeah, it's definitely an interesting space to be in.
I mean, just on that point, I mean, that's once again, decentralization helps there. I mean, when you think of any service that uses a centralized database, there's a giant pot of gold sitting there as a reward for a hacker to get into. If you hack a centralized platform, you get in, you get 1 million users worth of data. a decentralized setup like Sylo, in order to get 1 million users worth of data, you need to hack 1 million individual different devices. So the amount of work and the benefit you're going to get out of it is it doesn't make as much sense from a work to reward equation. So just by sheer nature of the architecture, it is better.
Yeah, that's really cool. Even just by having this AMA, I'm now I'm clicking. I'm getting the aha moment of what the decentralized component actually means. So you mentioned the Coca-Cola partnership. Are there any upcoming developments or upcoming partnerships you are looking forward to?
Yeah, actually, we've got a few things on the burner. One of which we'll be bringing out before Christmas. It's a collab which touches on the DeFi space. It'll be coming out pre-Christmas.
Oh, right.
It's a major platform in the industry. I can't quite say the name because we will be doing a PR release on it.
Right, cool.
Marketer's lunch. But it's pretty cool. It kind of extends the functionality and our focus towards kind of giving more usability around assets and bringing in more platforms and more chains to Sylo. So we're sort of positioning ourselves to become, the agnostic player that can incorporate different functionalities no matter which architecture in the industry, which is really, really great. We're also working on a pretty interesting campaign with a major restaurant chain, fast food chain. In terms of leveraging digital assets and sort of the smart money context, which is pretty cool as well. And we'll just sort of keep an eye out. We'll be releasing those pieces, as I say, sort of pre-Christmas around that stuff. Great,
that sounds great. Busy guys, and you're obviously going to have a Christmas present for the community soon. People just have to be a bit patient. While I was in the app, I also saw, and this might be interesting for users to know, but I'm not sure if you guys are going to build on it. I also saw Discover, the icon Discover. You click on that, you can go onto DuckDuckGo, and you can go into Uniswap, OpenSea. So does that mean you can actually access these platforms for NFT, for OpenSea, and for Uniswap via your app? Or what's the idea behind the Discover tab? Let's put it.
Yeah, 100%. So what we did was we launched a Web3 browser, which lets you access, a whole range of different dApps and DEXs as well, like Uniswap, through it directly within the application, which is pretty cool. We're getting a lot of requests on that side of things, and we originally were looking at building specific functionalities, but the amount of work in that is just pretty crazy. We would have to be quite sensitive. The Web3 browser was the logical way to go to bring those services that people are already using in the ways they want to engage with them to market. And then what we'll be doing is layering sort of specific customizations around that stuff just to enhance them around those pieces. Yeah.
Nice. It's becoming from what I hear, it's becoming a real ecosystem, and if anything, it's expanding, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So we also work quite closely with a company called Centrality, which is sort of a larger blockchain venture ecosystem within Australasia. They're working on a whole number of areas as well. So there's a few cool projects we're collaborating in that space that we're sort of helping to deliver some of this stuff as well. So big shout out to those guys as well.
Centrality. All right, cool. So as for talking about Eurasia or Central, what did you just say? Central Asia?
Australasia, so Australia.
Australasia, sorry, yeah. As for usage, do you see that the most of the users are in Australia, New Zealand, maybe a bit of Asia as well? Where are most of users located?
Yeah, no, actually, only a small sliver is down this side of the world. We're very, very international in scope. So, what we've done is we've sort of put it out, and we've seen a lot of pickup all around the world. I think the last I checked, there was 70 different countries that we had installs in. But we're seeing particularly strong growth in regions like India, Philippines, Malaysia, Indonesia, and we kind of, on the back of that adoption, we started probing a bit more, and we've noticed that we're getting a lot of uptake in regions that have particularly high proportion of the population that are actually unbanked. Regions where not the majority aren't actually hooked into the traditional financial system because of various barriers, and they're operating almost like peer-to-peer barter style systems already. and by sheer fact of installing an application which has a non-custodial wallet, they can get straight in the game and sort of keep operating on a barter-style basis. And then the fact that there's communications hooked in with that, it's just a plus.
Yeah, definitely.
Focusing on actually creating regional partnerships within some of those areas to really understand, okay, cool, why are we getting this adoption? What features can we double down on? Where's the demand? So, definitely not a, obviously the code piece we rolled out was New Zealand and Australia focused for the commercial element, but user-wise, it's picking up all around the place.
Awesome. What about Nigeria? That's go ahead, yeah.
Yeah. I think they're one of the highest, per capita adoptions of crypto, right?
Yeah. It's really booming.
Yes.
Especially because if you have the opportunity to keep it in your phone, unseen to the eye, and not hold any cash on you, as a general means of exchange, it's safer, it's more convenient, it's faster. So I can imagine that it's booming for several reasons. But in due time, I'm imagine Sylo to be downloaded there by the millions as well.
Yeah. So we're definitely seeing some usage there. I mean, I don't think it's stuck out as a massive standout region for adoption, but it's in the mix. We've actually had we've got an ongoing conversation. It's a bit of a slow burn in relation to a utility solution there, which helps people essentially deal with power credits through digital assets, which is really, really cool. So, I mean, if we can pull off something there as well, that would be amazing. That's the kind of thing that would, if we work on that, within a 12-month scope, that'd be awesome because it would make a big difference for some of the rural areas.
Nice. All right. So I just downloaded the latest version of the app today. What are some future releases you're going to be adding on to? I mean, you've mentioned it shortly, but because some more people have joined onto the AMA, maybe you can elaborate a little bit more.
Yeah, absolutely. So actually, just last night we announced our next big release, which we're targeting for the 2nd of November. I won't tie a bow around that, otherwise my developers will have a heart attack. But we're targeting the 2nd, and it's called the Oya release, and it's essentially been the last year, all the learnings we've taken from the release we did in September last year. All the learnings, usability, bug fixes, network architecture updates, it's all going to be deployed within that release. So that's about a week and a half away, which will be a massive fundamental update. So if you've been playing around with the application so far, you'll notice there's some elements that are a little kind of clunky in terms of transactions and transition speeds. If you compare it to like a mainstream messenger like a WhatsApp, what this is going to do is smooth through all those difficult pieces that were due to the fact we were using a decentralized tech stack to really stack it up performance-wise next to a mainstream messenger, which we're super excited about launching. And also, in conjunction with that, we're going to be rolling out our initial bones of the node architecture, which is the piece which is going to let people actually run their own Sylo nodes to provide resources to the network, which will then be layering incentivization into. So people will actually be able to earn Sylo tokens for providing resource to the network. So think about it like every individual having the ability to be a server host to make the performance of the network better around different regions.
Which would allow you to get a staking reward as well? Yeah.
So we're involved with staking and earn component based on that, which is really cool because that's tied into the fundamental architecture of the platform.
Awesome, really cool. I saw, but I didn't like caught my eye from the side. I saw something called like a Sylo code. Is that exchanging crypto based on like a QR code or just with without having to show your address? Is that what that is about for the users?
I'm not sure what you're referring to, but we've got obviously you can kind of scan QR. So I mean, Sylo is a messenger. So you can add if you add a contact, you can message them money, and you can add a contact via an invite code, which you can hit, which is a URL, or you can do it through a QR scan.
Okay, that's probably what that was.
And then once you're a contact, you can just message assets back and forth, same as messaging.
Nice. So the most important thing, obviously, as you guys mentioned, your non-custodial, that you keep your private key It gives you the opportunity to back up the wallet. You have to keep that. It's very important. You mentioned earlier that you could, see where all the development is and all the interaction with the app, the downloads of the app. How do you guys gather data? Can you just see the downloads of the app, or do you see the interactions in the app itself? Because it's private, and I imagine users are going to have these questions as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, obviously, in terms of the fundamentals of the application, fully decentralized, but obviously we're still operating in a centralized world from the point of app stores. So if we're on the Apple App Store, Google Play Store, that stuff picks up, what region the install comes from, bits and pieces. So there's that kind of basic level of data, but we don't have any individually identifiable information unless that's personally provided. So it's sort of just aggregate information from that standpoint.
Nice, because that's also a hot topic, gathering up data. So it's good to hear that.
And actually, on that as well, it shouldn't be understated how much more difficult it makes running an app.
Yeah, exactly.
Not having as much visibility, it takes a lot more work. For that exact reason, that's why we've kind of created some regional partnerships in India recently to actually go in and understand from a closer, more intimate level the usage patterns and reasons why, because we can't just pipe up all that really deep, granular user data from that point of view.
Yeah, and to be fair, that's what most businesses and centralized messaging apps live on, because they live on the data, whether they sell it or not. It gives them insights into user behavior. So it must indeed be hard for you guys to, get into the nitty gritty. So good job for you. Do you actually have any competitors at this moment based on the product you have?
The way we view it is from a feature parity point of view, definitely. There's wallets out there, there's messengers out there. It's like, what box do you want to put us in? But from our point of view, we view the crypto industry as the emerging competitor versus they're trying to take on those mainstream institutions, the household names that are kind of doing things, but we're trying to reinvent the architecture and do it in a slightly better way. So what we're quite into is collaborating with everyone, because it's actually more difficult to do the same things decentralized. So trying to do it all yourself is very, very difficult. So we like to work with other players. From a feature parity point of view, you could probably say Status is probably close, very, very close or similar to us in terms of architecture and functionality. From that standpoint, those guys are doing some really, really cool stuff. But it's a growing market. It's not a saturated market. We're currently operating in 5% adoption. We're going after the 95% of mainstream, not trying to cannibalize the 5% of already in crypto.
Yeah. But it's more like a building journey anyway. Let's see some questions here. Which is your favorite part in your ecosystem? Yeah, what's the most favorite part of what you built? That's what a user is asking.
We put a lot of focus on the protocol layer. So Sylo protocol is the actual engine that drives the smart wallet app. Think of the smart wallet app as like the first implementation of showing that the Sylo communications protocol can operate at scale. But what we've got sitting here now is a protocol that other applications can pick up, that they can build their own apps on top of, that has all these fundamental selling propositions or benefits that we're talking about here in terms of decentralized, in terms of privacy-oriented, in terms of digital asset integration, which what we're now that we've got past a certain threshold and shown on a global scale, hey, look, this tech works, it's functional, people are actually going to use it, as a comparative to a mainstream messenger or player. Now what we're going to focus on is really making that easy to use for other apps in the space or developers to build cool features or unique, selling props or business cases on that. So we're really going to focus on that actually in conjunction with Centrality, who we're working really, really closely with. So there's kind of a few projects we're in the early stages of collaborating with on that side, but we also want to push it out big time. I think the intention there is to also create some incentivization around, hey, how do we accelerate this development curve? How do we accelerate node adoption around that piece? We'll probably be using the token to incentivize certain components around that as well. Yeah.
Yeah, nice. That was one of the last things I wanted to ask, because that was beyond my technical understanding. But that infrastructure which you are going to offer, is that what will other messenger apps be able to implement specifically?
So the core piece is the communications functions. So if you're wanting to provide private, decentralized, encrypted messaging calling to your applications without having to build it from the ground up or use a centralized setup, you'll be able to pick up Sylo protocol and integrate that into your applications from that point of view as well. And then once we've also deployed the Sylo node architecture as well, there'll be a whole range of ways that different developers can interact with those pieces there as well.
And for users to deploy nodes, to get back to what you said earlier, is that will that be dependent on the amount of Sylo tokens they hold? Do you need like a minimum of, I don't know, 1 million tokens, or how does that work?
Yeah, so that'll involve a stake and earn mechanic. So the figures of that will be released from our team sort of over the coming months in relation to that. But when we first launch it, what we're actually going to do is make it very incentivized in the case that we want to get people on board, playing around with it, hosting these nodes, kind of scale testing the functionality and the performance, and then we'll bake in a more sort of longer term model based around the stake to reward component to make it sort of commercially viable from the point of view to make it worth putting the resource into hosting these nodes.
Cool. Very, very cool. All right, we've covered so many topics. Like on an unrelated but still related note, did you
more awareness from the mainstream into this stuff, which is obviously always a good thing. I did actually just see something pop up in my feed talking about the terms and conditions of PayPal, where they said that you could only hold assets that you buy on PayPal, and you can't move them off PayPal to another wallet. So there's going to be some interesting, but I think from it's obviously there's going to be elements that aren't going to appeal there to people already in the space. But I think as the catalyst for getting people into digital assets, it's going to be absolutely massive, kind of bringing that across into the awareness of kind of mainstream institutions and individuals in a big way.
Yeah. Normally these are questions that pop up at the beginning, but personally, like crypto, I believe very much in user friendliness and usability, because that's the most important thing in understanding and realizing true adoption, because you need to understand what you're doing. And personally, it took me a very long time to understand what Bitcoin was about. How was that for you? Like when you first got into crypto, understood or learned about crypto, probably you have a bit more technical understanding, so it was easier. But did you see the value? Did you understand the importance straight away?
Yeah, so we've seen the potential of it for quite a while, and that what we've obviously been on is a mission to kind of create that bridge, because we see the value, we see the potential. I mean, plain and simple, like cryptocurrency is just financial innovation. It's innovating on money. Like, traditional fiat money hasn't really changed a lot in a long time. And this whole piece has just been about identifying, okay, cool, yeah, there's some issues with the traditional financial system. Let's focus attention on that and improve that. But the key to adoption of that is providing use cases, which people can legitimately get into, that they don't have to be doing it because they want to just, be putting the middle finger up to the centralized institution or using it for that specific purpose. It's let's get these actual benefits and use cases in, commercially viable scenarios for people to use. And that's been a real key focus of us, because, as amazing as they are, they still need those use cases to move. And I think, particularly with like the DeFi pop we've recently seen as well, obviously some cool stuff, some not so cool stuff happening is that as well, but it's really accelerating that push, into mainstream awareness and legitimately viable alternative cases to show real potential rather than sort of just talking about the potential. So it's in your hand, it's happening.
Nice, really nice. So a bit of a controversial topic, but what is your, feel free, by the way, to answer or to not answer. What's your idea of the price of Sylo? Where do you see it headed based on what you guys are building? Because again, the most interesting fact for me is that you guys have been building for 2 years, then only decided to release on KuCoin last year in May, which is really cool because generally people do ICOs, list tokens, push, and growth hack, but you focused on the product. So based on the fact that you're building an ecosystem, there's a lot of traction. What is your prediction for the future?
So in terms of the token, so we actually only just listed on our first exchange in May this year, which was KuCoin.
May this year, sorry, yeah.
This year. So, you know, a lot of it is sort of just getting the ball rolling in that department. So a lot of the fundamentals that are going to come through and drive value and show serious use cases in the token are just commencing now. You know, the release of Oya in a couple of weeks is going to be the first step towards the node architecture, which is going to be hooking the token into the incentivization. We'll also be launching some other features in Q1 surrounding stake and earn components around the token. So we're really just started. It's very early days. We've been in the market for I think about 5 months in terms of exchange, but all the multiple years of development that's been coming through in the core architecture is going to start to pop its head up during the early stages of next year and right throughout 2021. So from a user adoption point of view, we've already pushed past 250,000 global users of the application. So once we start connecting the dots between the token utility and the real underlying framework and the app usage and adoption at scale, I think that's when it's going to start to get really, really interesting from that standpoint. So I'll let people read into that what they will for their own personal purposes. But yeah, from a technology standpoint and a real use case standpoint, that stuff's it's still to pop up, but it's coming very, very soon. Yeah.
Nice. Thanks for the answer. It's very clear. So had a last question in mind. Can't think of it at this moment. We've covered so many topics. You've done a great job explaining what you guys are about, and it's a very impressive product as well, and refreshing to see that you've been focusing on building behind it and gaining traction, because that gives a real bullish case for the future and a real use case, right? Because that's the main thing in crypto. Everyone's looking for a use case, but pushing their own token before that's actually visible. Is there anything you want to share at this moment in time? Anything you want to contribute? Any questions you have? But I don't think so. You have questions?
No, I mean, I think we've covered a lot. But all I can really say is keep an eye out. Like we've got a lot of. It's going to be a very, very busy next few months for us from a kind of development and release point of view. The last year in particular has been a big hustle for our back-end guys, putting a lot of time, a lot of late nights into the tech stack, and we're going to start bringing that up to the UX layer, during this quarter and then Q1 next year as well, which is, we're super stoked about. So it'll sort of be the culmination of what we've been working so hard on. So we really encourage everyone to get involved from that Oya release and beyond to really get a good taste for what we've been working towards. Nice.
Yeah. So we've got the Christmas surprise coming up, collaborations which you couldn't talk too much about, and you guys are going to keep on building as of Q1, and there'll be announcements for staking. I think we covered everything. And I want to thank you so much for your time, Dorian. And we'll definitely be in touch, because I might put you in touch with our community manager for Gatechain. You guys might do a collaboration on the node and the staking topics, which is beyond my technical understanding, but he definitely does.
That'd be awesome to have a chat with him, yeah.
And for now, I just want to thank you so much for your time and great job in explaining everything.
Yeah, thanks. Really appreciate the time.
All right, no problem, Dorian.
Cheers, Patrick. See ya.
Take care.